Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Nammo sadanto suchedoye alahudi sanmiao sanputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jue nan zao yu. Wo jin jian wen de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in hundreds of thousands of millions of eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Venerable Master and Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. We are at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. It's September the 3rd, 2016, and we're looking into the 10 grounds chapter of the Flower Garland Sutra. We're in the 7th ground. And that verse that we just recited in English has 3 various versions. And I know everybody is like waiting to see which one I start on, so you know which one to follow me with. And we're phasing out the old one, but the materials that you have in front of you contain that old one. And so that's why I go back to the old one, because that's what you've got. I don't want to confuse folks. But the new one, I think, is a major improvement. Bit by bit, we will come up to speed so everybody has the latest version. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see it, hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Much better, thanks to David Rounds and his translation skills. So that's the one we'll be doing, but only after we get it printed out and distributed so everybody can read it together. So let us begin. Here we are. We're on the cover of our text. We're going to invoke the presence of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka assembly. And we're doing it in Chinese. We chant 7 times the name. And here we have it. If you have one of these, you can get them online. If you go to berkeleymonastery.org, you can download our latest version of the sutra, and it's got this name of the sutra and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas who bring the sutra to us. So that's what we're going to be chanting. If you can't read the Chinese characters, read the Romanized English underneath. Here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Nam Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Nam Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Nam Da Fang 广佛华严经，华严海会佛菩萨。Okay. Now, there's a reason why sutra lectures are usually preceded by chanting. And that's because when we chant, particularly sutras, for example, the Amitabha Sutra before the evening sutra lecture, when we do that chanting, it settles the mind. It puts us in a place where we're ready to listen. And when we're in that place, what it does is it opens the mind. So the Dharma goes in deeper. Those principles resonate because we have less dust between the mind that listens and Buddha's mind that spoke the sutra. So at Gold Mountain, when Master Hua gave us this method, we always did the sutra and then recited the Buddha's name and sat down and listened. Rarely, this is even before we did the Mengshan. That Mengshan ceremony came later, like a decade after we got started. So I noticed that we've lost that continuity, that flow here at BBM because we stop at 7:15 and then get set up, which takes a lot of time. So there's a reason for that gap. And a lot of folks don't come for the chanting. They just roll right in off the highway, get out of the car. And so we're vibrating to the rhythms of the Nimitz freeway. We're vibrating to the rhythms of the rhythms of 6 lanes of traffic. And when we come in, you can feel it's harder to settle. So I thought, gee, let's fix that. Let's do some chanting once we get here. How about that? What a great idea. Thank you very much. I thought so myself. Oh, good. Now, we've just finished Earth Store Bodhisattva's holiday, his observance. And tonight is the last great transference. It's the big transference. The final Da Hui Xiang up at the city of 10,000 Buddhas, and where people celebrate Earth Store Bodhisattva's Dharma. The story of Earth Store Bodhisattva is one of the most powerful and compelling stories in our tradition. And we just do it once a year, and then calendar rolls on, and we put him aside for a while. And I thought, how nice to be able to keep connection with Earth Store Bodhisattva throughout the year. And our job here, particularly at Berkeley, but everywhere where Master Xuanhua's teaching pervades, our job is to introduce these stories to the West in ways that make sense. English, for example. And the other day, in fact last Sunday, I was at Sudana Center, and the Earth Store session had begun in earnest that day. And there were people who came to meditate at 4:30 in the afternoon. And I could see that they had this Earth Store energy vibrating in their ears because they've been chanting the sutra. So I pulled out a banjo and I said, let's keep the chanting going here. And I could see that there were a lot of Westerners who came to meditate, and they had been hearing Namo Di Zang Wang Pusa. And for them, they might as well have been saying Namo A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because they don't know what Di Zang Wang Pusa means. So I said, we got to do it in English. Yeah, but nobody does it. So I said, in fact, we do. So I thought, let's do that. Let's get the dust of the highway out of our ears and out of our hearts, and at the same time celebrate earth treasury, earth store. Some people say earth matrix. Some people say earth womb, like zang. Womb is earth womb, doesn't sound right. It sounds earthworm. That doesn't work. So. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva, 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 Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva. It'll do you no harm. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva, 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 Di Zang Pusa, Di Zang Pusa, Di Zang, 4 syllables, Di Zang Pusa. Here we go. Di Zang Pusa, 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 Di Zang. One more time. Di Zang Pusa, 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 Di Zang Pusa. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva. There we go. We'll make it fit. Isn't that lovely? You're listening to a grain measure that was holding grain in 1870. Didn't know it was going to be a banjo, because it wasn't until this last year, when this old grain measure that used to scoop grain out, got by Bob Thornburg at Sierra View Design, made it into a banjo. So this is called a grain measure banjo. Isn't that lovely? With a tacks around the head, and fishing line. By golly. How about that? So Bob Thornburg is bringing back ancient banjo designs. Probably the first banjos looked just like that. They were made out of a box or a gourd. He also makes them out of gourds. So you can either eat it or turn it into an instrument. Or you can hollow it out as soup and then turn the skin, the gourd itself, into the instrument. How nice. California craftsmanship. I love it. Okay, please turn in your text to page 54 and 55. We're down on the line on page 54 that says 佛子, 此是波罗蜜. If you start at the top, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, line 8. It's the second paragraph. Over on page 55, it's disciples of the Buddha, this Bodhisattva. Don't you feel undusty? Feel like the dust just got swept away by Earth-store Bodhisattva in English? Okay. I'll give you a line, you give it back. 佛子, 此时波罗蜜, 菩萨于念念中, 皆得具足, 如是四摄, 四持, 37品, 三解脱门, 略说乃至, 一切菩提分法, 于念念中, 皆系圆满. Good. Okay, over to the right. Together, let's read together. Disciples of the Buddha, this Bodhisattva in every thought can always fulfill the 10 paramitas. He can bring to perfection in the same way the 4 dharmas of attraction, the 4 supports, the 37 wings of awakening, the 3 gateways to liberation, and so forth, up to and including all the Bodhi-share dharmas. Okay. We were on the same paragraph last time. We talked about the 4 dharmas of attraction. That was the whole lecture, going through these 4. And let me contextualize it. Let me put a frame around it so we know where we are. This is the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Flower Garland Sutra, talking about bodhisattvas, what they're like, what they think, what they say, how they act. And it's a training manual for bodhisattvas who want to get better at what they do. They want to learn how to be better bodhisattvas. And the bodhisattva path is that way. It's vertical. You get bigger vows. You get deeper samadhi. Your mind gets calmer and clearer as you cultivate. So this is the how-to. This is the how-to manual for bodhisattva path. And in our particular tradition, the Mahayana, the northern tradition of the Chinese lineage of Buddhism, there's many, many things that are called Dharma doors, we call them. Gateways to the Dharma, Faman. Ways to practice. When you really translate Dharma doors out of Chinese, because a Dharma door, can't make a picture of what a Dharma door might be. But if you say gateway, entry into the Dharma, then you go, oh, in other words, the Buddha's teaching makes sense to you. Then it's like, thank you for actually translating it over. It's a way to practice the way the Buddha explained it. That's what a Dharma door is. And there's a dizzying number of them, 84,000 they say. Lots and lots and lots and lots of ways to do it. And Master Hua, our founder, this monk, would always say to us, none of them are number one. There's not one that's better than any other. 84,000. Some people practice one of them their whole life. I know someone close to me, learned how to meditate with Om Mani Padme Hum, and that was it. That's what he wanted to do. And he still does. So every time. And it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And other people, myself being one of them, kind of have a top 10. And that list changes. It's not even a fixed list. It's kind of a, the practice of the moment. And sometimes I'll pick one up and run it for years. Other times it just somehow the time's up for that and another one replaces it. So 84,000. Which is your practice? How do you want to do it? Bodhisattva is good at a lot of practices. And as the Mahayana progressed, as it grew in China, in India, it gathered all these ways to practice. And so here we have a list. They made lists of practices. There's actually, back here, we don't point to our library, our canon library very often, but that cupboard, that bookshelf, has a book, Sanzhong Fa Yao, I believe it's called, Sanzang Fa Yao, that is a book of lists. It's all about lists. That's all it is. And there is the single vehicle, there are the two adornments, there are the three refuges, there are the four noble truths, there are the 5 eyes, there are the 6 spiritual penetrations, there are the 7 limbs to enlightenment, the 8-fold path, the 9 stages of a decaying corpse, and the 10 paramitas. And you can keep on going and keep on going. There's the 11 wholesome dharmas, and there's the 12 links, and there's the 13 dhutangas. I don't think there's a 14. It goes up to the 100 dharmas of the Sarvastivadins and all the variations, right? So there's an entire book that is nothing but collection of the lists, and it's a Tang Dynasty text. So, okay. Slow down here, take a breath. And why? One of the reasons is, and the easiest, a simple answer, why are there so many, Shifu? Shifu would say, 84,000 ways to practice because you have 84,000 afflictions in your mind, 84,000 troubles. Every single one of those practices is a medicine to cure every one of your hang-ups. That's why, he would turn it around and don't ask stupid questions. There are as many answers to that question as there are different people asking it. So, okay, well, that's not very helpful, Okay, I get it. In other words, don't ask. What's important is what? Think about it this way. Of those many, many, many ways to practice, faith is only one, and it's not the most important one. There are many religions in the world where faith is the only practice. There's no other practice. Many. The one that I was raised in. Now they would say that's not true. Charity is good. They would say helping your brother is a good one. But it kind of gets weaker. Protestant Methodism. So it's like faith is huge, not just in Christianity, but in religions that have a God, a theos, that are bound by God. You simply accept what you were told by the caste of people whose job it is to keep track, the priests, the clergy, and you're right. What you do with your time, how you use your body, mouth, and mind, basically don't worry about it, be good, because why? You are saved by grace. God decides who goes across. So that method, mind you, works for more people in the world than any other method. Theistic religions outnumber Buddhism by 90%. Okay, that's a lot. Buddhism happens to be, particularly our flavor of Buddhism, a religion that's based on cause and effect, and it says, no one saves you but yourself. No one can, and no one may. You yourself must walk the path. Buddhas only show the way. Okay, how much of that is faith? A little. You believe that the Buddha's path is correct, otherwise you'd be wasting your time if you walked it. But you do it. You yourself must walk the path. Buddhas only show the way. It's not that you just kind of walk along and wait for the news that you've been saved through grace. Different. Okay, so my point is, of all these, look at this. He can bring to perfection in the same way the 4, the 37, the 3, and the Bodhi shares. Numbers. All those different, that's what those are. These are all practice lists. Now, take one out of the list, and it's a lifetime. This is just kind of the, this is the, you turn it on the edge and you look at it, and it's just a thin list. Turn it this way and step into it, and it's somebody who is always putting food on your plate that is yummy, that didn't involve killing. Why? They're practicing generosity. Giving. Here's someone else who every time someone gossips in their ear, every time somebody talks about somebody else, what do? They fall silent. And that gossip just goes in the air. And we go, oh, I did it again, didn't I? I was talking about somebody else. And you suddenly hear it because around the circle, that person just 不讲是非,是为解脱, right? If you don't talk about rights and wrongs, just that is liberation, says the teaching from the tradition. So, okay, that's one of them, right? Refusing to gossip. In other words, talking according to the second of the wholesome deeds of speech. 不挑拨离间, not causing schisms with your tongue. Amazing. So you can actually cultivate a Dharma door by subtraction. By not doing something, you're actually cultivating. Right. A lot of, for example, the 10 good and 10 evil deeds are usually given as refraining from the evil, which I really find interesting, because there's an assumption there that you're going to be doing those things, right? 3 with the body, 3 with the mind, 4 with the mouth. And the Buddha gave them to us as refusing to do this is wholesome. The wholesome comes from when you don't do it, meaning we're mostly doing it. So notice it and go, stop. You don't kill, steal, or lust. You don't have greed, anger, and delusion in your mind that you let sit. And you don't lie, gossip, use profanity, or speak frivolously. Immediately, 10 wholesome deeds exist in the world. That's a list of the 十善, the 10 wholesome deeds. But it's also one of those Dharma doors. So, it's a list and it's also 10 things. So you see how these add up, right? That's my point is, when you do these, they come alive and they get 3-dimensional, and it's like, oh yeah, People come to me all the time, people who didn't have a teacher to show them, and they say things like this. They say, oh, Dharma Master, I plug in my Buddha recitation machine and I've got the Great Compassion mantra playing in my house loudly all the time. I never turn it off. And it's in the car. Anytime I'm in the car, I just turn it on automatically. Namo Haladano Dali. How much merit do I have? And by the way, I like to get up, and I get up earlier than the monks, and I do Zauka, and then I meditate for 4 hours, and then I recite the Aristotle Sutra from memory, and I just want to know, tell me which Dharma door is the better one than those. You know, and it's like, be calm, be kind, don't compete to be the marine cultivator. You know, it's like, watch your mind. You know, don't be greedy. How about those? No, those don't sound like anything. I want a real Dharma door, Dharma. It's like, any single one of those is sublime. Just take the Great Compassion Mantra, turn down the box. Why give the little machine all the merit? You know, like if you put that in your, can you recite it from memory? No, I let the box do it. Yeah, right. Recite it from memory silently. Don't let everybody know you're cultivating, and you're on the path to Buddhahood. No doubt. You know, you and Guanyin are the same. But playing it all the time so it becomes something you shut out because it's irritating, no merit. None for you. In fact, because you shut it out, you might be going the opposite way. So it's like, yeah, right. Which one? Which is the people ask me that. And often they'll run their laundry list. I do this and this and this and this. Because why? It's kind of natural when you see all these, which is the best one for me, people ask. I want the good one. Master Hua, when people would ask that, would always say, whichever one you like. It's a very frustrating answer, right? Like, I want the best one, Shifu. Yeah. So, would you cultivate one that you don't like? Yeah, if you saw somebody else doing it and you thought you didn't want them to get ahead of you, I better learn that one so I don't, fall behind. Check your motive, right? So, I'm being dramatic to make the point that what? Buddha Dharma is there to transform affliction, not to increase affliction. And we're not always sick. Sometimes we're okay. And if we're okay to go and add this multiplicity of practices to the point where it becomes no different than gathering handbags. Ming Pai, I've got a Prada, I've got a Chanel, I've got 2 Hermes, I've got a Louis Vuitton, and I don't bring that out very much because I don't want it to seem like it costs $10,000 that it really does. And it's like, what's a handbag for? Is to hold your stuff. Go to Whole Foods and get a recycling bag and carry that, and you won't have so much affliction. So it's like, don't gather Dharma doors that way, especially when they're all held out at arm's length. Put them in your heart, and you've got the secret. They're meant like medicine. You don't eat the entire contents of the doctor's bag all at once. That's probably the best analogy, right? If you have a stomachache, take an Alka-Seltzer, take a Baojiwan, but don't chug every medicine to cure your stomach. You'll go the opposite way. So, okay. He can bring to perfection the same way the 4 dharmas of attraction. What are the 4 supports? I looked it up because I didn't know the answer. Siqi. What are the Siqi? Anybody know? Anybody look it up? Of course, I'm staring at Jin Chuan. Oh, she went grabbing. Oh. Great. Yihuan, did you do it? Did you look it up? You did? Okay, what does Shifu say? I'll tell you, okay, I'm curious, because I had to look it up. And when I looked it up, it took me to the single source, which is mentioned once in all the Dharma in this chapter. This is like the only place that the Siqi. So everybody went to Qingyang Guoshi. Go ahead. Yihuan is founded in Chinese. Let's hear what Shifu said. The 4 dwelling places, also called the 4 supports. Okay, the place of wisdom, place of truth, renunciation, Of which? Quietude, right. Okay. That's good, good. What have you got, Iwan? Yeah, I know. Yeah, go for it. Can you find it? Different. Let's hear it. I know. This is the whole process. Why don't you just read it in Chinese? Go on. Okay. Dharma. Yi. Okay, meaning. Mantra. Okay, is humanity, humaneness, right? 忍, patience. Patience, okay? That's it. Okay, good. So, right. Different. Yeah, different. So, what do you get from this? Lists of practice come in and out of popularity. When you have 84,000, you don't have them all at once. 84,000 is a general figure. So, ask right now. Honest, nope, we turn the surveillance cameras off. Nobody is going to remember how you answered. How many people today recited Namo Amitabha at least 10 times? Okay. So 3 monks and 5 lay people. Good. How many people recited at least one great compassion mantra today? Different group, the same group. How many people recited one sutra today? Full through. Okay, good. How many people meditated today, even 10 minutes? Take a look. Got it. All right. So, from that brief survey, which was not scientific, mind you, we can conclude that in this group, meditation is the most popular means of practice out of the 84,000 Dharma doors. A number of you, often the same people, mind you, both recite the Buddha's name and recite mantras and recite sutras. Okay. This is 2016. If I had asked that question in the Tang Dynasty, how many of you recited the name of the Buddha Amitabha? You would have gotten a quizzical expression back. Why do you ask that? No. If you said, I thought so, and then you said, how many people practiced according to the teachings of Maitreya Bodhisattva? Most of the room would raise their hands. Scholars call it the cult of Maitreya. We probably wouldn't say that. We would say the Dharma method of Maitreya-based practice, Mila Pusa, was extremely popular 1,000 years ago and has almost vanished. Meanwhile, Amitabha, the Pure Land, has become the dominant practice in Asia, but it's not here yet. The only people who recite Namo Amitofo in this country came at some point, had encountered the Chinese Mahayana tradition through China, through Taiwan, through Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Philippines. Interesting, huh? So, okay, Dharma practices, methods of practice, come into popularity and can vanish. Right now in the West, we like to meditate, by golly. Clear, all right? Now, here's what I got. That being said, thank goodness we have Google, because I was able to find the 4 supports. And they were they correspond to what Dharma Master Jin Chuan told us. And they're places where we live. Okay, so prajna, the home of prajna, because it lights things up, lights up dharmas. 2, truth, which would be dharma. This is what is revealed, principle. When you shine a light of prajna, what you see is, oh, that's basically true. 3, the home of renunciation, which is what getting rid of what covers the light and the dharma. Sure. You drop it, like no killing, stealing, lust. We just went through a list of 10. And the last one, it says the home of purity. What was yours? Quietude. That's probably the same translation. Jing, qing, jing. The home of purity, which is once we get rid of what's covering the nature, the sixth patriarch would say the nature by itself is pure. You don't have to add anything. You got it all. So there's a list. Interesting list. Think about that. So it goes from the top. It's wisdom, and then principle that the wisdom shows, and then getting rid of what covers that principle, and then resting in the purity once it's uncovered. So what is that? That's my description of what we practice. Here's the kind of thing that comes in the door if you're a monk or a nun. Somebody went to a new town where Buddhism had just arrived. There was a professor who wanted to introduce the Dharma, good Buddhist. So he said, we're going to have a lecture and bring in monks. So the monks arrived from out of town. And here was a guy, I think he's probably an athlete, big American guy, has good roots, right? He says, I like what I heard, I'd like to know more. Could you explain the basics? And so I got a phone call. I was in the middle of preparing for another talk, and the monk said, I got this American here, and I really, could you give him the basics in a couple minutes? And I'm like, no, not to a stranger over the phone while I'm standing here. I'm not going to speak Dharma to somebody whose face I can't see, who I've never spoken to before. You talk to him, and let your sincerity carry the day. He wants to find out from you. It's more important what he sees and feels than my words disembodied over the telephone. Okay, the Four Noble Truths, you ready? Noble Truth of suffering, you got that much? Okay, suffering. Number 2, let me see. No, that's not right. Okay, I'll start over. Forget what I just said. Let me tell you again. It's like, I'm not understanding the gobbledygook this guy is giving me over this. So, fine. It's not the case that you can speak Dharma quickly and the words carry it. What do we have? We're in a time now when people want to experience. They don't want to hear as much. The hearing comes after the experience. So I've got a good, you ready? You taking notes? Here's a good soundbite. In the Dharma that we cultivate, we make progress by subtraction. Got that? Okay. Yan yi ci gong de, we're done. Nice to sing a song. What do I mean by you make progress by subtraction? People say, what do I get out of this? You say, nothing. It's what you get rid of that shows how you're doing. That shows your progress. That's my soundbite. And at least that catches the ear. People go, what do you mean by that? Right? You don't get anything out of real Buddhist cultivation. Nothing. Why? We've got it already. If you said that first, I would have gotten it right. No, you got to come at it that way. So, what is it? What are the 4 supports? There's wisdom. It goes from the top, or you say it goes from the inside. There's wisdom. And the wisdom, what? Shows you principle that we got inside. Cause and effect, being a perfect one. The connection to our parents is a perfect principle. We stand on those virtues, all right? Many others. The problem is it's covered over. We don't see it. So as we cultivate, we're subtracting what covers. That's the third of these supports. And then with samadhi, there's stillness, quiescence, and purity. So you can keep the focus on that. So we progress by subtraction. And that's a funny, Heng Lai would say, that's not a funny idea, that's a good idea, is what Heng Lai would say. And why? Because when you sit still, count your breath, ask who, look into a meditation topic, what you notice is you lose your anxiety, you lose your depression, you lose your tension, you lose your lack of self-esteem. In other words, you gain self-esteem. All of those things are based on a view of the self. And as you sit still, that self just bit by bit falls away. It dissolves. So you don't solve the problem. You don't get anything. You dissolve the problem. The anxiety, the stress, the fear, the sense of self, the arrogance, the lack of self-esteem, the opposite of arrogance. And all that stuff goes away. And what shines is, oh, actually I didn't have a problem to begin with. Now, let's go out and help people with real problems. You know. So, there's the soundbite. These 4 supports speak the Dharma in a wonderful way. If I had said that on the phone to the football player, it's like, what? You know, you're not going to get anything out of your meditation. Oh, well, I'm going to go get baptized. I'd much rather, you know, get some cookies and a hug from the Christians than this airy-fairy, we what? We make progress by subtraction? What's that? So, it's true. Wisdom is there. It shines on principle. We uncover what's on top of it. And the point of meditation, samadhi, is to keep the constant focus. Okay, 37 wings of awakening. Next list, 37. That's a lot of stuff. What are they? The 37 wings, Professor Lancaster would say, these are essentially the heartbeat of the Mahayana. It's a list. It includes the Four Noble Truths. It includes the Eightfold Path. Okay? So these are some of our old friends. If you follow the teachings of the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Sumedho, Ajahn Pasano, and, I might mention, Tuesday night, you have a chance. Do we know who's coming? Ajahn Pasano is coming, did they say? Who? Okay, we'll have to see. Perhaps Ajahn Pasano will be here Tuesday night. You can hear yourself. But the teaching that I have heard most often from the disciples of Ajahn Chah is the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. Ajahn Sumedho explains the Four Noble Truths wonderfully well. Ajahn Pasano explains the Four Noble Truths wonderfully well. It's never dull. It's never repetitive. It's always fresh. And it's the hallmark Dharma of the Pali scriptures and the people who study them. If we had to have an equivalent, it would be the 6 guidelines, right? Liu Da Zongzhi. Master Hua explained those as often as Sumedho explained the Four Noble Truths. So, 37 wings. 37 wings of awakening, 37 limbs of enlightenment, 37 Bodhi share dharmas. 3 names for the same list. And the one out of that bunch, it includes the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 shares, the 4 right enlightenment, the 4 right efforts, 4 noble truths, 4 right efforts, 5 roots, 5 powers or strengths, the 7 wings of enlightenment, the Eightfold Path. That's 37 altogether. And again, each single one of them opens up into a lifetime of practice. People's faces, people's sweat, people's aging through maturing of these practices. It's not that you need them all, but the 7th ground bodhisattva specializes in these. That's what's going on. He brings, in thought after thought, the 37 wings of awakening to life. He really does it. The seven out of the 37, the Chi Puti Fanpa, the 7 Bodhi shares, of which these are all collectively part. The 7 Bodhi shares are progress into meditation. They describe somebody's practice from selecting a Dharma, selecting what you want to practice, what kind of meditation, all the way to what's called Heng Sure, renunciation, to where you kind of practice and not practice are the same. Okay. 3 gateways to liberation. Should mention those. That was explained a lot in the last 2 grounds. It is wisdom. Let's see, Sanjay Toman. Just slipped my mind. Yihuan, what are they? Kong Jietoman. R, number R. Wuxiang. The cultivation, the liberation gateway through what is free of appearances, and last one, Wu Yuan, called the wishless, which is strange. Wishless means it comes without even thinking. So, again, states of meditation. You meditate to the place where things that are very solid transform, and the air around things becomes solid, and the thing itself dissolves into atoms, into mind, into the one who's perceiving it. So not only do objects become hydrocarbons, but the very thing that you're using to view them becomes hydrocarbons, and the space between them, it's like it's a state of meditation. And the next step into that, and liberation is the result. These are called the San Jietoman, the 3 gateways. The Wuxiang, the one without any characteristics you can know, starts with the perceiver himself. You dissolve self and dissolve dharmas. They both become empty, and then you perceive that the things of the world cannot have any substance if you yourself have transformed through your meditation the very consciousness that's viewing them. And then the last one is really subtle. Words don't get it. You say Wu Yuan. You can't wish for anything. It's like if you're a pianist, right? You go beyond the keys, then you go beyond the music, and then you go beyond sound itself. And it's the intention of the performer interacting with the hearts of the listener. No wishes, no thought at all. It's just, you could say, both particle and wave, right? There's a question in physics, is light a particle? Sometimes it is. Is light a wave? Sometimes it is, right? So the difference between a performer's intention to bring out the dead composer who's been dead for 300 years, you're putting that music into the air, and the listener hears it and is brought to tears. What's the difference between the composer's intent through your fingers or bow or horn into the heart of the listener? Wu Yuan, right? It's just one continuum. How wonderful, right? So you can think of it this way. There's a police siren. Maybe that might be a fire engine siren. Over there, it's a dissonant sound, so it alerts you. It's not consonant, it's not in harmony. And then it fades, and you think, where did that sound go? And then you go, where does that stop? Did it stop somewhere near San Diego? Maybe it's not there yet. It just goes on and on. And did it stop with your ear? No, it went through my ear, and go, yeah, right. This is, how come we don't know that? It's because we don't pay attention to the function of the ear organ. Or maybe it's just unknowable. Maybe that's one of those questions that the Buddha would not answer. So, right, here we are. Can we attain liberation from suffering by contemplating these questions? Yes, right. Sanjatoman. Empty, no appearance, no characteristics to know it by, no moving of thought. It just pervades. And then it's back again and it starts over. So, Bodhisattva contemplates these. These are what states of meditation. It's not just far out, woo-woo stuff. It's doors to end suffering, gateways to end suffering. Okay, now, I want to ask, how many people here started their Buddhist practice by meditation? I would raise my hand. Meditation was your first encounter with anything like the Dharma. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. More than half. Heng Sure, you? Was meditation your very first encounter with anything Buddhist? Where the question was, how many people through meditation was the very first encounter with anything Buddhist? First intentional practice. David, not so? Yeah? Bill, meditation or not? Or recitation, nianfo, or what was the very first time you encountered anything Buddhist? What would it be? I'm trying to find meditation versus devotion, versus nianfo or nianzhou. Don't remember? Yes, sir. Say again? Martial arts as a doorway. Okay. Prior to. Marty would say the very same thing. Jason said martial arts was the first. Marty was practicing in the Taiji studio over on San Pablo Avenue. You know that story? I can tell that story. It's a really good story. So Master Hua said, I had already announced that I wanted to do 3 steps, 1 bow. And he said, nah, false thinking, just go bow. He said, besides, he's not here yet. He said, Shifu? Too much false thinking, just go bow. So, he's not here yet, okay. So, like 4 months passed. And Shifu said, you all have not looked into Guanyin Bodhisattva's great compassion mantra's power to gather in living beings. He said, why are you so lazy? We should recite the great compassion mantra more. So, remember Alan Nicholson, Terry Nicholson's husband, Guo Gui. At that time, his dad had cancer. And his dad lived in Berkeley. Alan was a really filial son. His dad was a great guy. He's an artist, famous individual. And so Shifu said, or Alan said, Shifu, if I recite the great compassion mantra over water 108 times a day and take it to my dad to drink, will he be able to get over his cancer? Will it cure his cancer? Shifu said, why are you asking me? He said, ask Guanyin Bodhisattva. If I tell you yes and you don't recite, makes no difference. If I tell you no, then you won't recite. So just try it. Be sincere. Guo Gui is like, that means yes, So he takes some water, puts it on the altar, and Guo Gui he was a boat builder. He's a master carpenter. A lot of if you go into the 10,000 Buddhas, that city of 10,000 Buddhas, go into the hall, the Buddha hall, all those racks where the 10,000 Buddhas live, Gogui. That in front, when you look at Guanyin Bodhisattva, all of the racks, that's Alan. Alan put water on the altar. Namo Hula. He'd come back from work, working hard with his body all day long. Come back, Namo. He'd often come down in the morning for morning chanting. Here's Alan, on the altar. Oh, he said, I got 30 more, And he did it every day, and he'd drive the water over to Berkeley and give it to his dad to drink. Drive back and go to work. Start reciting. He did it faithfully. And then, Shifu said, Alan, how's your dad's cancer? Alan said, I think it's better, Shifu. He said, you sure? And Gogui said, I think so, Shifu. He said, you're still reciting, right? Yes, I am, Shifu. He said, okay, so make sure you give it to your dad, right? So Alan took that day's great Dabe Shui, right? Great Compassion water over to Berkeley, gave it to his dad, and said, okay, Dad, see you tomorrow. Went outside and then looked back through the window. Dad took the vase and poured it into the plant. Didn't drink it, right? Alan went in and got really angry at his dad. Don't you know what I've been doing? You turn your back on him. He scolded his father. Went to work and promptly cut his finger off in a bandsaw. If you look at Alan, he's missing. Went back to Gold Mountain and said, Shifu, the farthest far out thing happened today, Shifu. It was pretty far out, Shifu. What'd you do? Well, I scolded my dad. Stupid. You should have lost your hand, said Shifu. What, Shifu? He said, don't stop reciting. So Alan keeps on reciting, keeps on taking the water to his dad. Said, Dad, I'm sorry I scolded you today. Look what happened. Father starts to drink the water, right? Cancer goes away. He recovers. Doctors go, that's strange. Why? What happened to your cancer? And my son. So he prolonged his father's lifespan by several years. And so meanwhile, Sherpa said, you all don't understand how powerful the Great Compassion Mantra is. Why don't you get serious about reciting it? Alan says, Sherpa, could we do a week of Great Compassion Mantra? Of course. Why do you have to ask? Get busy. So Alan was also a graphics designer. His dad was an artist. So we made a poster. The poster had the Chensho Chenyen, Guanyin Bodhisattva, before it was gilded. It's just bare wood, right? And, spectacular. My office was just behind Guanyin Bodhisattva's ear. We had a loft, my office in the loft, and so I would just look out Guanyin's ear, bare wood, not gilded, right there. All the hands, right there. I could reach out and touch them. And so I made this poster, a picture of Guanyin, and it said, 1,000 hands to see them, 1,000 eyes to see them, 1,000 ears to hear them, 1,000 hands reach out and rescue living beings everywhere. That's what the poster said. It was really nice in English, right? So the poster went out, and a woman named Susan Anderson took the poster over to her Taiji school. Susan Anderson was Bhikshuni Hengliang before she left home. She also was at the Wenwu studio. Took it over to Wenwu, Zhonghua Wenwu, Zhonghua Wenwu Xue Yuan, Zhonghua Wenwu Xue Yuan. Put it up. So here's this guy, right? Martin Verhoeven. He's a hotshot Taiji guy. He's already got his Taekwondo black belt. And, it's like, okay. He's one of Master Jiang's first teachers. So he's like, I think I'll do some standing meditation. Goes over to the bulletin boards. What's that? He reads, 1,000 eyes, see them, 1,000 ears to hear, 1,000 hands to rescue those living beings. Like, that's weird. Starts to cry. Tears running down his face. What's going on? I better have some tea. He goes over, drinks tea, goes back. starts to tremble and crying. What is it about this? He asks, anybody know anything about this? Yeah, that's Gold Mountain. Oh, you haven't heard about Gold Mountain? You got to go check it out. Yeah, I can recite the Great Compassion Mantra. So I'm at the front desk at Gold Mountain Monastery. This pickup truck pulls up outside, just like a pickup truck that I used to drive. This guy gets out wearing a Pendleton shirt, the identical shirt that I had let go when I became a monk. He's got a little blonde mustache, just like the mustache that I had before I left, And same hair, and it's like, he comes in, hi, is this Gold Mountain? I was looking, I saw this poster. I said, yeah. Ring. Huh, Shifu? Guojan. Shifu? Anybody come? Yeah, Shifu, this guy just came in. Tell him to listen to the lecture tonight. Okay, Shifu. Are you free this evening? I don't know. What's it about? I said, maybe we had a lecture on Dharma. You come listen to the sutra lecture. What's the sutra? Marty comes in. So that night, Shifu said, Guojan, that stupid vow you may want to make, what are you waiting for? But Shifu, you told me, make it now. Okay, Shifu. He had told me, no, 6 times. This is number 7 time. So I said, I think I want to do the 3 steps, 1 vow. And Shifu said, you all think you can do it? I don't know, Shifu. It's pretty dangerous. Well, and then this guy says, I don't know why, but somehow I think I'm supposed to go with him. Would that be okay? And it's like, what do you all think? Well, I don't know, Shifu. So, okay, be sincere. So that was a poster, right? That was the Dharma door that you said martial arts, right? So, Marty too. If it hadn't been for Alan reciting the Great Compassion Mantra, losing his finger, getting angry at his dad's pouring it out, his dad being moved by his son's sincerity to recite, getting cured, Shifu saying, you guys don't understand how powerful the Great Compassion Mantra is. Then we're saying, let's do it for a week, putting the poster up, Marty standing there seeing it, getting there finally, Shifu says, he's come, you can start. Funny. My entree was my college roommate who came to become a monk and then pulled me into the monastery, mostly because I was hungry and I was cooking for myself as living in a studio apartment. He said, really good food on Buddha's birthday. Why don't you come over? Well, okay, I'll try it. Step inside. Oh, I'm supposed to be here. So you never know. Okay, there we go. So all these different Dharma practices, all the different methods. And we're going to go on down so we can actually make progress through our sutra. 儿时解脱月菩萨问金刚藏菩萨言：佛子菩萨当于此第7地中满足一切菩提分法，为诸地中亦能满足。 That time the Bodhisattva Moon Liberation asked the Bodhisattva Vajra Treasury, disciple of the Buddha, does a Bodhisattva accomplish all the Bodhisattva Dharmas only on the 7th ground? Or can he bring them to perfection on all the other 10 grounds as well? All right. We have turned a corner, reached a milestone in our text. We're back to dialogue between 2 bodhisattvas who are telling the story, right? Moon Liberation is what's called the interlocutor, the questioner. And Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva is the speaker. He's the one who's holding the keys to the Dharma treasury of the 7th ground. So he's asking about these Bodhi shares. He says, does a Bodhisattva accomplish them only there, or can he do it everywhere? That's the question. How many people first came to the Dharma because a parent or an auntie or a grandmother introduced you to the Dharma? Two? Was it because he or she recited the Buddha's name or took you to a temple? Michael? Okay.
When I started doing it, she's like, wow, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas were actually answering whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, she was very happy.
nice. So mom recited, this is Michael, and she wanted her son to get close to the Dharma. So when he was interested, she thought that was a answer to her prayer, huh? It wasn't Connie's influence, right? No, no, no. A little bit, okay. Credit where credit's due. All right. Jin Chuan. A Buddha image in his home. Okay. I might add that the fat Buddha, the laughing Buddha, the happy Buddha, is that's a very good worldly. That's a Taoist version of the fat Buddha, and many sailors get off the ship in ports in Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong. They wander through. They have like 3 hours of shore leave. They wander through the stores, the bazaar, and pick up the fat Buddha. Take it home, give it to their mom or their sweetheart, and people see it and go, I want to know more. Jin Chuan's statement, there was a Buddha home. I'm sure it was a more representative Buddha. Many people, that is a very expedient Dharma. And it's often there's money, coins or kids pulling his ear, and stuff. And it's a distortion of Maitreya. It's a representation of patience. It works. That image has circulated around the world as being Buddhist, and it's so, barely Buddhist. Connie? And then Sandy, go ahead. Could we get the mic floating around here? Is that all right? Our tech team is here in force tonight. We got the whole crew. And we have our beginner, our adept, what do we call them? The Ihuan is our intern, is our tech intern, right?
So, my last summer at UC Davis, I was kind of friendless because all of my friends were graduated already. I was finishing up summer school, and I ran into this girl at a coffee shop I usually study at,
Could
and
you park that a little closer?
she was into drawing, so I was taking a little break from reading and drew something for her. So, I drew Guanyin Bodhisattva. In I guess she's American, so I kind of drew her like Barbie almost. So she thought Guan Yin was I think she liked my picture in the image that I drew, and so she inquired about the image, and so I taught her a little bit about Guan Yin, and she was interested. Wow, God or Bodhisattva of compassion. So that was really cool.
Cool. Yeah. Barbie Bodhisattva.
Like an image.
Nice. Yeah, good. Do you pass it back to Sandy? Nice.
So, 1983, I just moved to America and turned on the TV, and Shifu was on TV for 30 minutes. So that was my first encounter.
Wow.
1983, it was February or March and summer. It went on for
One for Lin Man.
Yeah, it was just him at the altar speaking for 30 minutes. No commercial in between.
Yeah.
And that was like the entertainment, the Chinese entertainment I had before news.
Wow. And what was your reaction to seeing that teacher?
Old?
Cold?
Old?
Old. Huh.
You know, I was 8 and I'm like, okay. I really couldn't tell the difference. Like as a Christian, I didn't know if he was, acting.
Uh-huh.
He was acting that role or what that was. But it was my only entertainment in Chinese. Everything else is in English and I didn't speak English. So
Wow. Yeah.
nice old man was
He's what?
nice old man
Nice
was
old man.
my
Yeah, good.
my impression.
Yeah, well, people know that Master Hua's vows include all those who hear my name, hear my voice, or see my face will bring forth this wish to wake up and will ultimately accomplish Buddhahood. And that's his vow. And you think, what kind of virtue has, what kind of oomph, what kind of light has to be there that such a thing could be possible? And you just know it is. I have seen particularly Asian women, but Asian men too, take a look at Master Hua and see in him a figure out of their wuxia pian. He is the kind, good monk of Chinese legend. He just looks like someone from the mists of legend, from myth, but here he is in person. And I've seen people kind of look at him and do a double take and just they lose it because there he is, and he's got the face, and he's got the presence, and he hits every right note. It's like they didn't believe such a person existed, and he's better than truth, better than reality, to have him come out. And it's just, that comes from vows. Anybody else got a story? Alan, microphone.
Yeah, so I should have raised my hand earlier because I almost forgot that. Because probably in the late 80s or early 90s, Master, he went to Taiwan, had the Yomingjie, the precept for disease. And my mother
Could you raise your voice a little bit? Yeah, thanks, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in the late 80s or maybe early 90s, so Master Hua took the delegation to Taiwan and then transmitted the precepts for disease, the Yomingjie. And my
That's
mother...
not the precepts for the diseased, it's the precepts for the deceased.
Deceased.
So,
Deceased. And then my mother probably saw the newspaper or some sort of magazine or poster, so she went ahead and registered for that. And then she held the paiwei, the plaque for my late grandfather. And then she remembered she saw the Master on the stage with the American bhikkhus. Maybe Faster was there. So that was probably my linking back to the Master. Yeah, so that
Great.
was probably the reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, Amitabha.
In that regard, people have seen the picture of Shifu where he's sitting, he's got the white whisk, he's in full lotus, and he's got that red robe, and he's stern, stern looking. I was standing to his right, Hung Lai was standing to his left, and Bill Bravort took the photograph. It was on the 3rd floor of Gold Mountain Monastery. And Bill, who was a fine arts major at Columbia University, a really good photographer and very, technically very skillful and artistic as well. Shifu saw him with his camera and said, "Get this photo." And he went in, got his baifu, his white whisk, and put on the red robe and the beads and sat there, and it was awesome. And he knew it was awesome, and he wanted the picture just right. And he liked to be photographed like that. No teeth. Not, no charming corner of the eye smile, you know, like cute Shifu, you know. No, it's like, and that was the way he wanted to be presented. It's wei yi, you know, 就不缺, you know, it's like with this deportment of a monk. That was the look that he thought we needed to see as the line is carried down, you know, as the lineage. And it wasn't a face. It's not that he's going to put on a stern face. It was, you could say his 本来面目, the fundamental face of how the Dharma is transmitted. You could say nobody there. This is relatively friendly, right? There's a smile here, and Shifu is looking very humane. He's not entirely on center, but when he wanted that pose, and that's why he liked that, it was completely geometrical. It's a Buddha image. You know, he is stepping into the image of how the Dharma, the original face of the Dharma is no expression, no emotion, but very human. This is not, I don't want to refer to, you know which one I'm talking about? That picture, you've seen it. It has usually presented with the tuilen on both sides, but I think I'll have it on my computer. It's awesome. And not scary, but not sweet at all. And no emotion. And I've tried to imitate that when I get a picture, when I'm in a picture, it's like, nah, I don't, that's the one. Can you hold it, turn it around, hold it up? Put it up. Yeah, that one. That one. Show it over here too. Yeah, that's the one. And you can't fake it. You need lots of bandwidth to show no emotion. You have to be fully human to be that pure. That's a pure photo. And also, what else? It's yang. There's no yin in that picture. There's no koi. He doesn't want you to like him a little bit, you know. It's like, it is pure yang. Very wonderful to see that. Alice. Microphone.
Talking about that picture, I noticed when I was vigorous about my cultivation, when I look at that picture, it's very inspiring, and I appreciate that picture.
Yeah.
But when I see myself kind of retreat, and I don't appreciate that face, it's kind of, I feel pressure.
A little scary.
Yeah, and I was looking for different picture, like a smiling picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed many times, so I always look at a picture, I can tell my situation.
That's interesting. Yeah. Using the photo as a measure of where you are. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I know what that state for sure. Connie.
Robert? Oh, earlier you said that picture is like totally young, and that makes me think, I don't know, don't you need a balance of yin and yang, or like is meditators or Buddhism is all about like cultivating the yang? Like when is...
Do we need a balance?
Because I'm thinking of Taoism now, I guess, like, because it isn't Taoism.
Yeah. So, for example, if you said that yin is emotion, and the Buddha is emotion transformed. So wisdom is pure light.
And
we're not there yet.
Light would be yang, right, or yang?
If you say that the sun is pure yang, the moon is pure yin, and it's not, there's no valuing there. It's not good or bad. It's not a question of that. It's when is Guan Yin yin or yang? The answer would be, what combination do you need to be taught? Guanyin is nothing until you need a body. And then Guanyin appears in 32 forms, which can be your best buddy, or it can be, you know, a rainbow. So purity is neither yin nor yang. Master Hua, when I said, my comment was, Shifu is pure yang in not that picture but the other photo. What I mean is there's no shadow. There's no emotion. It's been cultivated away. And is empty space yin or yang? You know, obviously. Contains everything. So, yeah. What I hear in the question sounds like a valuing. Yes, do we need a balance? Well, of course, if you're human. Bodhisattvas intentionally keep a bit of ignorance to draw near living beings. But beings in the hells are pure yin. They're only confusion and emotion and covering and turbidity and affliction. Beings who transcend birth and death have transformed all of that emotion, pulled it away, our principle that we started the lecture with, pulled it away off their pure nature, so that light shines fully. The wisdom shows all the principles. Okay? Time to transfer. That lecture went really fast tonight.
Sorry for going off on a tangent.
What's that?
Sorry for going off on a tangent.
We started with Earthstore Bodhisattva in English, chanting that name. So please transfer the merit where you feel that energy should go. Your wish is yours. So the farther your mind, the purer your mind, the farther that energy connects to more beings. My guitar. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, I'm going to jump up, turn on the projector, run the screen down, and share something that I want to share. I do want to make announcements. Indeed, I do. Okay, be right with you. I saw something that disturbed me, and I want folks to be aware. There we are. New York Times just reported flooding of coast caused by global warming. Scientists' warnings that the rise of the sea would eventually imperil the United States coastline are no longer theoretical. This is a New York Times special. Justin Gillis is the reporter. This is Highway 80, the only road to Tybee Island, Georgia in June. High tides are forcing the road to close several times a year. Look at the photos. Sharp increase in sunny day flooding. In other words, not when it rains. Karen Speets is wondering how to get her mother out of the neighborhood in Norfolk, Virginia before the water comes again. A house in Norfolk, Virginia that's been repeatedly hit by tidal floods sat on temporary supports as workers prepared to elevate it permanently in June. Norfolk's on the coast. Andrea Dutton, a University of Florida climate scientist beside an ancient coral reef in the Florida Keys, evidence that the sea level was once far higher than today. Check it out. That's a coral reef in Florida. This is the one that got me. Water from a tidal stretch of the Potomac River flooded Old Town Alexandria in Virginia during high tides in early June. I lived beside the Potomac River in Maryland for 2 years. That's Virginia. That's the other side of the river. Look at this one. At the city market in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the most popular spots in town, shoppers dodged seawater that bubbled up from storm drains during the high tide in June. This is now September, June, July, August, 3 months ago. Seawater flooding the streets. When you look at the historical record, there's no trend saying the flooding is going down. The trends are all very clear. They're going up, and they're going up in many of the areas in an accelerating fashion. Brad Tuckman walked the piece of land in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where he is building a grand new house pointed towards the canal that wraps around 3 sides of the property. It is scenic, yachts plying the water, but the sea has risen. Street flooding in the area has become a recurring nuisance. So before starting to build his new house, he spent $500,000 to raise the seawall and truck in dirt to elevate the land. University of Florida scientists team approaching Lignum Key to determine how fast sea levels rose in the ancient past. Okay, so what's the point of this? I want to read you usually the first paragraph tells the story. Norfolk, Virginia. Huge vertical rulers are sprouting beside low spots in the streets so people can judge if the tidal floods that increasingly inundate their roads are too deep to drive through. You have to read the ruler by the side of the road to know if you can drive it. 500 miles down the coast, the only road to Tybee Island, Georgia, is disappearing beneath the sea several times a year, cutting the town off from the mainland. Another 500 miles on, Fort Lauderdale. Increased tidal flooding is forcing the city to spend millions fixing battered roads and drains and at times to send out giant vacuum trucks to suck salt water off the streets. For decades, as the global warming created by human emissions, flashpoint in that sentence, increased tidal flooding is, let's see here we go, caused land ice to melt and ocean water to expand, scientists warned the accelerating rise of the sea would eventually imperil the U.S. coastline. Now those warnings are no longer theoretical. The inundation of the coast has begun. The sea has crept up to the point that a high tide and a brisk wind are all it takes to send water pouring into streets and homes. Federal scientists have documented a sharp jump in this nuisance, flooding, often called sunny day flooding, along both the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. The sea is now so near the brim in many places, they believe the problem is likely to worsen quickly. Shifts in the Pacific Ocean mean the West Coast, read Berkeley, California, partly spared over the past 2 decades, may be hit hard too. Once impacts become noticeable, they're going to be upon you quickly, said William B. Sweet, scientist with NOAA in Silver Spring, who is among the leaders in research on coastal inundation. It's not 100 years off. It's now, he says. How about that? That was what prompted me to show you this today. Reading this, it was like, gee whiz. That's cutting edge news. But no, it's been going on for a long time, but we don't pay attention to it. Why? Because politicians discussing global warming. This is the one. One of the best sculptures of recent times depicts politicians discussing global warming. Do you think it's happening? Oh no. Climate change is a plot. Climate change is a way for scientists to make more money by selling books. Says who? Says our Congress. Oh my. The water is rising over their heads. And they're still thinking, no, actually, it's not true. That's a theory. It's a conspiracy, they say. Right? Here we are. The shorter ones are drowning already. Okay. Local governments, under pressure from annoyed citizens, are beginning to act. Elections are being won on promises to invest money to protect against flooding. Miami Beach. Imagine if Miami went under. Increasing local fees to finance a $400 million plan that includes raising streets, installing pumps, elevating seawalls. In many of the worst hit cities, mayors of both parties are sounding an alarm. I'm a Republican, but I also realize by any objective analysis, the sea level is rising. Jason Bulterman, mayor of Tybee Island, one of the first Georgia communities to adopt a plan. But local leaders say they can't do it alone. They're pleading with the state and federal governments for guidance and help, including billions to pay for flood walls, pumps, and road improvements. But Congress has largely ignored the pleas, has even tried to block plans by the military to head off future problems at the numerous bases, military bases where we spend so much money, are now under threat from rising seas. A Republican congressman from Colorado, Ken Buck, called one military proposal part of a radical climate change agenda. He's one of those politicians that won't believe it until the water is over his head, because his head is completely shut now to science. There's no further debate. that man-made climate change is imperiling our lives. But you know why many of these politicians refuse to admit it? It's not what the Bible teaches. And the Bible is God's word, unerrant and unchanging. There is one reading of the Bible that says time began with Noah after the flood. And Noah saved us, the waters receded, and that's when time began. That's when human culture began, 6,000 years ago. They believe it. If climate change is true, the Bible is a story, but not scientifically verifiable. So because of that understanding, all of climate change, all that science tells us, that common sense, the New York Times here shows you in pictures, is a radical climate change agenda pushed on us by nefarious scientists who want to make money for their theory. My goodness. We live in interesting times, right? Okay, I don't want to go into it a lot, but I'll just say the point is many of the politicians who deny do so on religious grounds. It is a matter of faith for them. So, what do we find? We find faith and science in conflict. I've heard it, I heard the story, I know it's true, God can't be wrong, they must be wrong. Right? Why? Because I believe. And then science goes, but can I show you a picture? By the way, water is seeping in your living room. Right? No, interesting. I mean, there you go. This is very interesting. Religious faith and objective facts in conflict. How do you choose? Which one will you choose? That's, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm saying this is our world right now. I love America. And I don't love ignorance. It's as if the country was being attacked along every border simultaneously, said Andrea Dutton, climate scientist, University of Florida. It's a slow, gradual attack, but it threatens the safety and security of the United States. One night, 8 years ago, Karen Spates, a Norfolk resident, sitting at the dinner table with her mom, eating crab legs dipped in butter and a tangy sauce. She felt a tingle. Here she is. Here's Karen. "Ma," she said, "my feet are wet." Her mother laughed since she felt it too. A house that had not been flooded since the family moved there in '64 was awash in salt water. Miss Spates initially hoped the flood was a fluke. It turned out to be the first of 3 to hit their home in less than a decade. Who is she? She, an administrator at a utility company. She works for PG&E in Charleston and wants to know how to get her mom out of there before it hits again without taking too much of a financial hit. "I believe it because we're living it," she said, nodding towards the nearby tidal marsh that sent water into her living room. "The water has to be rising if we never flooded, and all of a sudden we flooded 3 times in 8 years. The land is sinking as the ocean rises." There you go. So, interesting, huh? Just wanted to share that. And it would be good if we all work together. But we're a big, diverse country with people who have a variety of perspectives, and we have grown. Jerry, can we bring the lights back up? We've grown now a culture where all views are equally valid.
Pardon me.
That's the notion, is that all views are equally valid. And science is held hostage to theory and ideology. if you believe it strong enough, it's got to be true, says our way of our culture. And ignorance can trump fact if you shout loud enough. So, interesting time. Where does Buddhism stand? I think we're not wrong if we say Buddhism seeks to end suffering. You won't be wrong. That was the original project, was to end suffering. And the Buddha's way of ending suffering was bringing to light the causes of suffering and then transforming them, just the way a doctor cures illness. He's called a great physician. And here we have testimony of a woman, intelligent woman, public servant, whose mom's house is washing away. She's suffering, and she didn't want to lose the house. It's her investment. That's her mom's home. What do you do and they're saying what? They're saying that permafrost. You all know permafrost. There's a whole chunk of the northern portion of the globe, Siberia, Greenland, northern Canada, that is permanently frozen. As that now melts, what it's releasing is a huge amount of methane and carbon dioxide. So they're saying that global warming, this actual phenomenon of gases going up and blocking and increasing the rays that melt, that raise the temperature, there's going to be a spike. It's going to happen faster, 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 because methane, among other gases, coming out of the swamps that's created as the ice melts, is going to, it's as if suddenly you had 1 million more cars or 1 million more cows pumping methane out their tail end. So everything's going to accelerate as the permafrost melts, which is happening at a fast rate right now. So it's not slowing down, it's speeding up. Just to say, it's important when you hear people coming out with climate change denial to engage, make sure that the people recognize that that is not an equally valid theory to science. It's anti-factual. And you can choose to listen to it and make it your ideology to live by, but you too need to sleep in a dry place. We're not aquatic creatures. We need dry land. So, interesting. That was today's New York Times. Kind of sobering. Okay, tomorrow at 4:30, if you're up in Ukiah, come over to Sudana Center. Be teaching meditation up there. If you're at CTTB in the evening, let's come and listen to the 10 Transferences chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra. That's my Sunday up in City of 10,000 Buddhas. And tomorrow is a Buddha recitation day, right? Starting at 7:30. Okay, please come and join us, recite the Buddha's name. Lovely way to spend the morning, and vegetarian lunch, and then spend the afternoon reciting as well. So it's a method that allows you to recite without losing your breath. And you can go long, and you wind up supercharging your body with oxygen by the Namo, like that. It's great. More announcements. Marty's lectures on Friday night have begun. This Friday, yesterday, was the first of the lectures for the season. So this is Professor Verhoeven lecturing on the Sutra, the Dharma Jewel Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. So that's beginning. Yoga, Amelia, what? September 12th, that's a Monday night, starting at 7:30. Okay. What's the name of the class this time? Integrating yoga and qigong for self-healing. Integrating yoga and qigong for self-healing. Amelia Barilli, of experienced scholar of yoga and Sanskrit and Hindu teaching modalities, as well as Chinese healing methods and martial arts. And are you still teaching at Cal? Nice. So Borges Buddhism and cognitive science. Cognitive science. So Amelia teaches at UC Berkeley. Senior. What's your rank now? What do they call you? What's your title there? Senior lecturer in Buddhism. Students, boy, think times have changed. Back when Michael tried to do that, Michael learned it was not permitted. So Borges Buddhism and cognitive science. She, it's Department of Modern Languages. Is that the Spanish and Portuguese? Yeah. So students meditate before class. Great. So Monday night, Amelia teaches here at 7:30. Come and check it out. Then Tuesday night, Ajahn Pasana will be here to speak from the tradition of the Thai forest monks. And if you haven't heard Ajahn Pasano speak, please do. There's a tea and Dharma conversation that happens at 5. So come and you have a chance to talk one-to-one with him, small group, and then the lecture starts at 7:30. What else have we got? Wednesday is Stephen Tainer. Good. Stephen Tainer is teaching his first meditation class. Our autumn semester is now officially begun, by golly. Through the summer, we kept pointing to it, and now it's happened. So, Jinfo Shi, do you want to talk about the class coming up? Can we get a microphone to Jinfo? Make sure everybody hears about this. Is a brand new idea.
No, we next coming Saturday we have a Ursto. Deciding Ursto name. Yeah, that Saturday is English and Sunday is Chinese. So
Ursto Sutra.
Yeah.
That is 2 days. We're having an
2 days.
Ursto Dharma assembly for 2 days.
Yeah, and also we have people asked to learning Chinese. We thinking we can do that in Berkeley. So we like to, if any people interested to learning Chinese, we can do that. So, but we need to know who come in, and so please give the name to us or to Gojian or any Jin Chuan Si is okay. So yeah, just let me know. We after Dizang Hua Hui, after that then we'll start that.
Okay. So this coming weekend we have 2 days of reciting the Ursto Sutra. First day in English, Saturday. Second day in Chinese, Sunday. Jinfo Shi has been approached by people asking if he could start teaching Chinese, Mandarin. And we have a possibility of classical Chinese as well, poetry and such, with a person who has taught it for decades. So if you'd like to learn some Chinese, Mandarin, modern spoken Mandarin, and then some written Chinese, please tell Jinfo Shi or Jin Chuan Shi or myself. We'll sign you up. That way we'll know how many students might want to take part. Okay, yes? Okay, great. Okay, Suzanne wanted us to know that David Wong, our Guqin teacher, will be doing, it's not a class, it's rehearsal for, right, rehearsal for the recital coming up in October, right? So that's tomorrow afternoon at, okay, he'll be coming around noon, and they'll be rehearsing in the back while the Buddha recitation is happening in the front. A lot of stuff going on. That's great. If anybody has a line on a bigger monastery, let me know. We're out of space here. We need a bigger monastery. So go higher for global warming. Pick it up. That's right. How high the sea is going to rise. So you're on a Highway 101 in central Oregon, passing through like Coos Bay, and on the coast there's a big sign that says Tsunami Warning Zone. And the Department of Oregon Highway Public Works has a curling wave and somebody running like this with the wave over their head. And everybody goes, ha ha ha, tsunami. It's like, yeah, there, right? It is not at all immune to tsunamis. So how high, you go watch on YouTube some of those pictures of Fukushima with the sirens going off and this wall of water just comes in, washing everything in front of it. You go, let's see, Berkeley Monastery is like 23 feet above sea level. We are. So run for high ground. If you see the water go out and revealing the bottom of the bay, do not go looking for seashells. Go the other way and run for high ground. Because it goes out and then it comes back. So a big earthquake that we're prone to, who knows. Anyway, so just to say. And what are we? We're just these little tiny ants scurrying around on the surface. The earth just goes, okay, that's better. Feel more. The earth is kind of going, better. Meanwhile, we go, earthquake, earthquake. You know, it's just adjusting. We're not that important. We just talk about it a lot. You know, birds just fly, and then when it's over, they come back. Humans are like, oh my God, grab a boat. Bodhisvaha. I was going to say hallelujah, but no, Bodhisvaha. May all become compassionate and wise. Indeed. Okay, shall we bow to the Buddhas? See you next week. We're going to move forward into the seventh ground. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo Na Fang Guang Fo Hua Ye